Check. 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. Check. 1, 2. Check. Check. 1, 2. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Check. 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 1, 2.
But I guess like they throw another week in there. It's a German company, so they do what they want. They kind of do what they want.
But it doesn't use the issue.
I do think that then they give him 2 weeks, so like that's the third. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, shut that.
All right, but
Happy
don't-
New Year.
You're here.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Listen, I
And I think there was like 90 divided by 8 was 12 kids per class. So it was actually
Are we all good for recording?
Okay.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. My name is Jason Baum. I'm the board secretary, and tonight we are doing reorganization, so I'm leading the meeting to start the meeting off. This meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act and is open to the meeting public. Notices were duly posted, and the meeting was advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News. Formal action may be taken. Can we stand and take a flag salute?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So as the first order of business, I want to congratulate our election results winners, Mrs. Menser, Mr. Pieros, and Mrs. Ryan. Congratulations. And after this, we will do the oath of office. So I'd like you each to look at the physical copy of the oath in front of you and repeat after me. I state your name,
I,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments
and to the governments
established
established
in the United States and this state
in the United States and this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I state your name,
I, Michelle
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications
that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by the law
prescribed by law
for the office of member of Board of Education,
for the office of member of the Board of Education,
and I am not disqualified
and I am not disqualified
pursuant to statute,
pursuant to statute,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime
nor disqualified due to conviction of crime
or offense listed in statute,
or offense listed in statute,
and that I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties of that office
perform all duties of that office
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, welcome forward.
Thank you.
At this time, we, as part of reorg, we elect the president, and then the president takes over and goes through the election of vice president. Something that is unique to this meeting is that nominations do not need a second. So anyone can nominate anyone for president, and anyone can nominate anyone for vice president. And then we'll do a roll count for the people nominated in the order that they were nominated. And as long as we reach a majority, which tonight we have 8 members, so it would still be 5, we would have an election of president. And then they would take over and perform the same thing for the vice president. So I'm going to open it up to anyone that would like to nominate. Oh, or Beth, you have a
Just quickly,
qualification.
we didn't do roll call attendance.
Oh.
I don't know
You are correct, sorry.
if you do that.
Can I get a roll call? Mrs. Cassidy.
Here.
Mrs. DePinto.
Here.
Mrs. Fiore.
Here.
Mr. Lopes. Mrs. Menser.
Here.
Mr. Pieros. Here. Mrs. Rad.
Here.
Mr. Rizza.
Here.
Mrs. Ryan.
Here.
So back to the election of the president. Does anyone have any questions before we do nominations? I'll take nominations. Ellen?
I'd like to nominate David.
Is there any other nominations? Beth?
I would like to nominate Michelle Menzer for the role. I think she did a fantastic job and does a fantastic job as our finance chair. And I think we would have a fantastic president.
Any other nominations? So I'll close the nominations at this time for president. We'll take a roll call vote on the first nomination, which is Mr. Rizzo. Can I have a roll call? You'll say yes or no. Please try not to vote twice. Mrs. Cassidy.
No.
Mrs. Pinto.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore.
No.
Mrs. Menzer.
No.
Mr. Pieros. Yes. Mrs. Rad.
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo.
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan.
Yes.
And now we'll take a vote for Mrs. Spencer. Yes, no, or abstaining. Mrs. Cassidy.
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto.
No.
Mrs. Fiore.
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer.
Yes.
Mr. Pieros. No. Mrs. Rad.
No.
Mr. Rizzo.
No.
Mrs. Ryan.
No.
Congratulations, Mr. Rizzo. I'm going to turn it over to you to conduct the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go through the same process for the vice president. So I'm going to open it up for nominations. Any nominations for vice president? Stephen?
I would like to nominate Howard DePinto.
Okay, Ellen nominated. Anyone else? Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I would like to nominate Pam Cassidy. I have a few things I'd like to say about the nomination. Pam started this year on our board, but as a new board member, she has been fantastic in her duties, I would say. Pam, I asked her today, because I said, I want to nominate you, can I just see, give me a ballpark of your accomplishments. And Pam provided me with a spreadsheet, which if you know Pam is perfectly spot on, of all of her volunteer hours for the year, and a total of 300 hours for Board of Education responsibilities. And that was committee meetings, and then being the alternate in committee meetings, it was the referendum, open houses. Pam was like the killer on that, because every single parent that walked through the door, she was going up to them trying to get flyers in their hands. And I feel like that dedication is exactly what we need on the board. So I admire that about you, Pam, and I thank you for your service to the community and to this board and putting in all that extra time and learning your role, doing the Garden State Coalition, coming prepared to every meeting. So I just value that, and I just want to say that, and that I think that you would be a fantastic vice president for the board.
Okay, any other comments before we do roll call vote? Okay, Mr. Bones?
Mrs. Cassidy.
Like, no one said it was 4.
So you're first going to vote on Mrs. DePinto. So you'll say yes, no, or abstain. And then we'll conduct that vote, and then we'll move to the second one, which is Mrs. Cassidy. So this vote is for Mrs. DePinto, yes, no, or abstain. Mrs. Cassidy?
No.
Ms. DePinto?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore?
No.
Mrs. Menzer?
No.
Mr. Pieros? Yes. Mrs. Rad?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo?
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan?
Yes.
So now we'll hold the same vote for Mrs. Cassidy. Try to vote once. Yes, no, or abstain for Mrs. Cassidy for Vice President. Mrs. Cassidy?
Yes.
Ms. DePinto?
No.
Mrs. Fiore?
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer?
Yes.
Mr. Pieros? No. Mrs. Rad?
No.
Mr. Rizzo?
No.
Mrs. Ryan?
No.
Ms. DePinto, congratulations.
Okay, first I'd like to thank you for electing me president again. Congratulations, Alan, for being vice president. I'd also like to echo the comments made about Michelle and Ann, both wonderful board members. Great working with you last year. I'm looking forward to working with you again this year as well. Okay. Alright, the next item is reorganization. These are standard items that we have every year at the reorganization meeting. Motions to bring in our policies and so on. There's 5 of them, R1 through R5. Can I have a motion and a second to move these items?
I'll move on. Second.
Interesting, a second. Any discussion on the 5 items? All right.
Do you want me to go first? I just want to point out I emailed everybody beforehand, but I want to just read it into the record and make sure everybody's aware. R1, the Board of Education calendar, next to the June 9th date, it erroneously says that the meeting begins at 5. The meeting actually does begin at our regular 7 o'clock instead of the 5 o'clock meeting. That's an error. It'll be erased, but just know when you vote, I'd like you to think that you're voting on a regular board meeting for June 9th. Sorry about that. Off to a good start this year.
I just wanted to call out for R5, the new law in terms of advertising the public meetings and notices, that begins March 1st. I just wanted to comment or suggest that in our next few notices that we say like March 1st it's ending, because I don't know that the public is fully aware that that we will not be advertising in those newspapers anymore. So just, and maybe perhaps to parents too, I don't know who's looking at those, but I don't think that's common knowledge. I know like the boards all know about it, but just the general public probably does not.
So you're thinking maybe on the open meetings, open statement, you can mention that, right? We talked about that, so we'll just update the open statement.
I could also, I'll just mention, I have a newsletter going out later this month, like my superintendent newsletter. I can put a blurb in there about that as well. So I'll make sure that we advertise that.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Kelsey,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Mentor,
Yes.
Mrs. Pieros,
Yes.
Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Howard?
There's one item under the superintendent's report this evening, and to conduct our code of ethics presentation and talk about HIV, I'd like to introduce Angela Herrera from Meth Vessel and Warble, our board attorney, our firm. Angela's here tonight and she has some handouts for you, and we'll take the next several minutes or so to do our ethics presentation. Angela.
Thank you. Okay, so. This way. Yeah, I made extra, so I think there should be one for James on this last.
Sounds great, thank you.
Sorry. So as you all, I'm sure are aware, there are 2 statutes that govern the conduct of members of boards of education. One also applies to school administrators, and that portion of the statute is known as the School Ethics Act. And there are some very specific prohibitions on personal conduct that apply to all sorts of school officials. However, there is a subsection of that act, which is a code of ethics, and I believe at some point you all will be reciting that and affirming your agreement to abide by that code of ethics. It's recently, some of the provisions in this code have come under fire because they're a little bit ambiguous and some of them can be weaponized. But what I think the number one issue that I see across all of my boards, and I handle the majority of the ethics complaints that come into my office, the number one thing that I see are social media posts. And even when y'all are using the, I'll call it quote unquote, approved disclaimer, depending on what the content of your social media post or a letter to the editor even, depending on what the context and the content of that, the substance of what you're commenting on, the School Ethics Commission has said your disclaimer doesn't effectively refute everything you just said. And so some of that will come down to, if you're discussing board business and you're not saying, I, Sally Jones, as as an individual, have an opinion that I don't agree with the proposed referendum. I don't, I'm just picking things out there. And, you know, I want to hear from members of the public. Because you're referencing something that is directly impacting the board, if someone filed a complaint regarding that commentary, the School Ethics Commission may refer it to an administrative law judge and have a hearing on whether you violated this code of ethics. Some of the other portions of this code of ethics are much easier to recognize that, yeah, I'm not gonna cross that line. For example, there is one, it is subsection G. I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which if discussed would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for the school. So for that, it's pretty easy to realize, okay, something I learned in executive session that is by statute to be held confidential, I can't then tell my family about it or have a discussion with a member of the public about it. That's usually pretty easy to recognize. And the same thing with providing accurate information. You know, nobody's perfect. If you say, our average class size is 25 students and it turns out it was only 22, well then when you get the right information, you say, I'm sorry, I was mistaken, and we all move on. But there have been other cases, reported cases, where, for example, a board member in, I can't remember what county it was now, I'll be honest, flat out lied to a member of the public. He said that a judge had not decided an issue that was impacting the schools, when in fact the judge had issued an order 2 months before and the guy knew about it. He was just trying to hide it and not reveal it. You know, that kind of behavior is clear cut. But some of the other things in here become a little more murky. And that's one reason why we've put together the handout that I've given with sort of the chart with what we call the 5 C's. So it's your commitment to the board, it's your duty to maintain confidentiality, it's your responsibility to recognize the potential for conflicts, whether it's conflicts with what your role is as a board member versus the day-to-day administration of the schools, which is the responsibility of the superintendent and the business administrator and the various other administrators. Then claims, which is don't allow there to be anything that could be considered as a quid pro quo. You know, promising benefits to somebody for a contract or anything like that. That's pretty, I think, you know, everyone's gonna recognize, let's avoid that. And then, again, chain of command, not trying to address concerns yourselves. You know, members of the community are going to come to you and say, I have an issue with such and such. Unfortunately, as board members, you can only act when you're here in this room as part of the Board of Education. You can't try to address someone's complaint on your own. And obviously, you all have a sense of responsibility to the community or you wouldn't be here. And you want to help people, and that's why you're here. But in that situation where someone comes to you with a concern or a question, the number one thing that I recommend is to say to that person, either please come to our next Board of Education meeting and address it during public session, or if it's something that, you know, directly impacts a student, then you suggest that they direct it to the superintendent so that he can then forward it to the appropriate school personnel who could handle that issue. I've had other members in other districts who've gotten in trouble simply for passing on that information to the guidance director themselves and not involving the superintendent, because now the board member has gone out of the chain of command. And by involving yourselves with district personnel other than the superintendent, it can be seen that you're trying to overstep his role and not respect the chain of command. These are the kinds of things that might not immediately raise a red flag, but unfortunately, school ethics complaints have become so common recently in the last 4 or 5 years. And I give an example to a lot of my boards. In 2019, I believe it was, there were 75 ethics complaints filed in the entire year. In 2025, it was almost double that. And unfortunately, the commission is taking 8 to 10 months from the time a complaint is filed to even taking a look at it. And it's just, it's a burden. And so, our role is to try and make sure that you're aware of what the obligations are. And then if you ever have any questions, you direct, that to the superintendent or your board president, who can then address it with Jen or anybody else in my office for concerns. Again, going back to what we've got here with the handout, the number one issue is social media. And a lot of people, I know a lot of people have sworn off of it, but there are still a lot of people who are engaged in it. And even the act of simply liking something that someone else, that a member of the community has said, that can be a problem, because you can't make a disclaimer on the little like. And so it can then be perceived by a member of the public, well, is board member Jane Doe doing this as just a resident and a member of the community, or is she liking this as a board member? Is this the board's position on whatever the issue is? And so that can get into a troubling situation. And it seems like something so simple and not anything that could be a problem, but unfortunately, in today's society, people are willing to hop on that and it becomes an issue. The commission has said that you as school board members do not give up your First Amendment rights to comment on issues germane to the public or to your role as a board member. But then they kind of backtrack from that and then get involved in the, well, was there a proper disclaimer and things like that. So if you are going to make any comments on any issues, I would just recommend that you possibly, talk to other members of the board and ask for their input, possibly run it by the superintendent ahead of time and say, what do you think of this? Or even ask your board president to ask one of us to look at it, because our role here is to help, give you guidance, but also to try and keep there from being any issues. So that's sort of my soapbox on School Ethics Act and School Ethics Commission matters. And I guess part of my perspective on that is because I do handle so many of these, and I see how something that seems so innocuous initially then becomes fodder for a complaint, and then it's, not just stressful for the person who's got the charges against them, it's a financial impact on the district, because then there's a statute in New Jersey that says that if a board member is sued or has some kind of regulatory charges against them related to their role as a board member, the board has to cover the attorney's fees for it. And obviously you can have insurance for it, and most districts do, but there's still that obligation. And it's a statutory one that it can't get around. So, we're trying to make sure that nobody here has that issue. In terms of, besides the code of ethics, under the School Ethics Act, there's one subsection of the statute that I see getting used and charged more often than others. And it's, again, because it is somewhat ambiguous, and it's that no school official shall use or attempt to use his official position to secure unwarranted privileges, advantages, or employment for himself, members of his immediate family, or others. And it's that others that gets into the problem. I mean, obviously we can identify whether you're trying to use your position to benefit yourself or your husband or your kids, but then it's the others. And there's no restriction on that for you having a relationship with that person. It's just, are you trying to, for some reason, help them get something that they're really not entitled to? Sometimes it's a position in the district that they might not necessarily be qualified for, or that they're not the best candidate for, or they're not the superintendent's recommendation. So, again, it's just seemingly little things where you think you're trying to help can then become an issue. So I'm not trying to be the voice of gloom and doom here, but again, I guess partly my perspective is I do see so many of these on a daily basis. And another, to go back, sort of to loop two things together, one of the things that you as board members have to address sometimes are the harassment, intimidation, and bullying complaints that come about in the district, and then the superintendent brings to your attention. I know that we use and have used the term bullying for years, and we sort of have a colloquial understanding of what bullying means, but under the statute, it is actually much more limited than that. And it's not just the typical playground teasing. There has to be a motivating factor behind it, whether it's race, color, sexual orientation, religion, disabilities become a big issue when especially in some of the younger kids, when they're teasing each other. The disability becomes part of what they're saying to each other, and then it brings it within the statute where there are very specific actions that the administration has to take, and then after the administration handles all of their investigation and reporting, then you as a board have to look at what the superintendent's recommendation is, and you can either accept, reject, or modify, whether it's the penalty or the findings. One thing that I think needs to also be emphasized is that the bullying doesn't have to occur on campus. If it impacts the operation of the district or that student who is the victim of the bullying, if it starts to interfere with their safe learning environment, whether it's happening online or on TikTok, Snapchat, any of the social media things, that's been a huge source of out of school bullying that's happening. It's not even, used to be text messages where you would actually have more evidence of it, but now it's some of these other apps that will delete, or you can only see it fleetingly, then there isn't always the proof for it. But once it starts interfering with the district's operations and the learning environment, then regardless of whether it happened on a bus or at the local Dunkin' Donuts or online, then the school has an obligation to address it. And again, just because two kids don't get along and maybe are having the back and forth, as if it doesn't have that nexus to a distinguishing characteristic, then it's going to be determined to be unfounded. That doesn't mean it's not a code of conduct violation. That doesn't mean that the kid who was being mean and cruel isn't going to suffer some consequence, but it's not going to meet the statutory definition of HIB. So that's sort of my 35,000 foot overview of HIB. I can get a little more into some details on, how it operates at the district level if you'd like, but I'm very happy to take any questions on not just code of ethics and HIB issues, but really anything that you guys might have in terms of board operations or, what the role of legal counsel is for you as a board, who, under your board policy, I believe it's the superintendent, the business administrator, superintendent's designee, the board president, and then your director of pupil services are the designated contact people for the board attorney. So if you have an issue that you think needs legal guidance, then you need to direct it to one of those individuals who will then sort of make the determination of whether it's something, especially the superintendent has the expertise. No, wait, we have a policy on this. We don't need to get Jen and Athena involved or Jeff involved. It's spelled out right here, where there are times where maybe the policy doesn't fully address it, and so one of us will need to weigh in. But those are your people who can contact us. And yes, do you have anything else you want me to cover?
I don't think so. I think HIB and obviously the code of ethics were the two major components for today.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that when we had the referendum going on last year, we were given permission to like or reshare district issued posts because that does promote and like the algorithm gets other people on and seeing it more. So I think there is a benefit to it and not just.
And I would agree with district issued posts. I think the issue becomes when it's Susie, your next door neighbor, who says something that may be controversial, or maybe you don't think is controversial, but someone else in the community is going to take offense at. And then you've liked it or reshared it, and it doesn't have that distinction. Obviously, as board members, if the district is putting out official information on an issue, it's understandable that the board members are going to be promoting that. It's really more commentary from the public or your own interpretation of what the district is putting out there. That can be a little more of a murky issue.
Yeah, my advice has always been, is if the district is putting it on our official page, it's kind of free game.
Yes,
It's because it's coming officially from district officials.
absolutely. In the same way, if you put out a notification of, a snow day,
Right.
and you need to try and amplify that for people, or a, commendation for someone who's about to retire,
Right.
or whatever.
It's fine.
Things you want to make sure that the public is aware of as a district and as an administration, that is absolutely fine to promote. It's really just these outside voices that can then become a little bit of a question.
Question. Yeah, so the culture of Board of Educations has changed so drastically throughout the past years in the state of New Jersey. I was just curious if there's any assistance provided to board members that are subject to false accusations.
Okay. Well, I guess the question would be false accusations in terms of a school ethics commission complaint.
Yeah, possibly as an example.
Okay, so with the school ethics commission, there is the ability as a respondent, and that's the person who the charges are brought against. It's the person who brings the complaint is known as a complainant, and then the other person's a respondent.
So not as a formal complaint, just
Okay.
publicly. Like you talk a lot about social media,
Mhm.
that also happens, to board members at times.
Yes,
So
it
it's not
does.
necessarily us commenting, it could be public commenting with false accusations.
And it happens all the time. And unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for that. Clapping back at the person can sometimes just exacerbate it and make it worse. And then you've given power and you've let that person know that they've bothered you or whatnot. On the other hand, if it is truly slanderous, and there are very specific, very limited categories for slander, especially when you're an elected official, unfortunately. Unless I try to tell most of my people to ignore it, unfortunately. I'm going to be frank about it because I think you can sometimes address what's being said without addressing that person or their claims directly. But if it's something that, they're accusing you of criminal conduct or something that's so far beyond the pale, then I think you can try to take action against that person. But 95% of the time, unfortunately, I end up telling people it kind of comes with the territory at this point. Social media is a cesspool. I hate to say it. It used to be pictures of cats and people's kids, and now it's an online mudslinging forum for everyone. And nobody's immune from it. But yeah, the block button is a good thing. And I think sometimes a lot of the people who sling these accusations, it may take time, but they reveal themselves to be who they are. And their accusations tend to become wilder and wilder and less credible, and people start to see them for who they are. And unfortunately, you sort of have to suffer through it for a little while. But if you take them on head on, you're giving them some power that they don't deserve. Now, if it's an ethics complaint that they file that has false accusations in it, there is a rarely imposed, unfortunately, mechanism within the commission where you can say, this person filed a frivolous complaint against me, and they should be penalized for it. I don't even know how many of these that I've handled. I have had 2 complaints declared frivolous, 2. And I think I have close to 50 pending right now, in various stages of litigation. But one, the person was actually fined for filing a frivolous complaint, and the other one, they said, it's frivolous, but we're gonna let it slide and not fine the person. Most of the time, they will say, well, we can't find any proof that this was filed to harass, or that they knew that what they said was completely false, so we're going to dismiss it, but we're not going to penalize them. So there is a mechanism for a false accusation in a complaint. It's just rarely invoked, but it does exist, and I have rarely, but I have actually seen it. And one thing I have seen a lot of recently is either intra-board complaints or people who are no longer on the board and are bitter that they're no longer on the board, and they start lashing out at current board members. Obviously, you can't do anything about someone who's no longer on the board. But in my opinion, any complaint against any board member doesn't reflect well on the board as a whole at all. So I hate seeing it. And unfortunately, I have a couple of districts where I see it a lot. And it's disheartening. But then I see a lot of other districts where, yeah, people don't get along, but they operate within the structure and the way things should operate. So we can't control what people perceive, and unfortunately, that is one of the characteristics, I'll say, that the commission will take into consideration with complaints is what would the average person perceive? Would they perceive this to be a conflict? Would they perceive that this board member was overstepping their boundaries? It's not necessarily whether you intended to, or whether any board member intended to overstep or intended to sidestep the superintendent's authority. It's would a member of someone either on the other end of this live stream or someone sitting in the audience, are they going to see it as that way? So I think sometimes we have to sort of take off our hats of knowing what it is, either as board members or the board president, what we're doing, and then sometimes think, okay, and I hate thinking this way, but how is this gonna look to somebody else? Because that's how the commission will view a complaint, is how did this look to a member of the public? I just throw a lot at you, I'm sorry. But that's one reason for the cheat sheet.
They're all returning. They've heard it at least
Okay,
once.
okay. Then I'm sorry to be repetitious.
It's okay. That's why they're quiet.
So. Aren't any other questions? We're always here. And I know we're always happy to answer anything, and nothing is too odd.
Sure.
Yes.
That's everything for my superintendent's report this evening. If there are any questions,
Thank you.
thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, next item is our public forum. Any item that is on the agenda? Audience, anyone online? Okay, so I'll close that item out. We received 3 correspondence that are with the board secretary on file. We have a couple of action items, the approval of the minutes. We have items 101 through 102. Can I get a motion and then a second on that?
I'll move, Ellen. Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Bowman?
Mrs. Cassidy,
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mrs. Menser,
Yes.
Mr. Pieros. Yes. Mrs. Rad,
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo,
Yes.
Mrs. Ryan,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is unfinished business. You all should have received a email from Dr. Hart, in regards to the strategic plan proposal. I don't know, Dr. Hart, did you want to maybe go through your document, or do I have it to read it? Or?
I can bring it up. Just give me one
Okay.
second. I put together a side-by-side comparison chart for everybody to see. I think the one thing that's there that's something to be considered, I put it at the bottom. A couple of things. First, there are several examples of strategic plans that have been developed by school boards and other strategic plans developed by Judy Wilson. The cost is different. I don't know how much that is a consideration for the board. The cost is different. The products are also different. But I think the way I would summarize it is how I put it on the document. So strategic plan, you can't necessarily go wrong. It's just sort of the flavor of what we'd like. School boards offers a planning program with their 3 R's in mind that includes those 3 forums and then development of goals from there. The approach from Judy Wilson, I took away one word that she used quite a bit during her presentation, which was inclusive. She tries to hear as many voices as possible, which includes multiple surveys, multiple forums, where she will talk with groups of faculty, staff, individual board members, individual key stakeholders like union leadership, PTO or HSA leadership, and she has individual conversations and meetings, and then compiles all the data for a group of stakeholders to review in that 2-day workshop. So it really is, do we want sort of open public forums from school boards? I did write here too, and school boards mentioned it as well. I think we can predict what the goals will be if school boards does the presentation. All of the examples include an academic goal, some sort of facilities or operations goal, whereas Judy Wilson, we start from the ground up, right? We kind of build the strategic plan. So I think that it kind of whatever the board and the administration really see as critical and important and what our preference is. I don't think we can go wrong. I just think if we have a preference for the 3 community forums and goals that admittedly by school boards are predetermined, we just kind of put our twist on them, or if we really want to build our plan from the ground up and have Judy's approach, which would include, more surveys and more inclusivity. So.
Thank you, Dr. Hart. I have a couple of comments. I'll go first and then I'll look out for everyone else. Excellent comparison. One thing I did notice is that the predefined goals is almost like a cookie cutter approach. And what's the point of having, in my mind, surveys and open meetings and people's inputs and spending all the time if the goals are preordained? Whereas Judy seems more to be a facilitator, where a facilitator is supposed to come in, facilitate the meeting and get your input. Whereas NGSBA is almost trying to be like a partner that's providing the input as well as facilitating. So my preference, and just my personal preference, is I like the facilitation as opposed to where we actually get the input from the community and we tailor it to residents' needs, as opposed to preordained goals that we fill in the blanks on. But that's just my opinion, so I'll open up if anyone else has comments. Okay.
I was a hard sell at first, but Judy Wilson, when she started talking about the one-on-one sessions, that really spoke to me about taking the time with individuals. So it might be employees who might not feel comfortable speaking up about what they really think we need to work on. There might be community members who are quiet and aren't the ones showing up. Sometimes there's loudmouths who, get a lot of the attention, but they're really not at the heart of the community. So that really spoke to me, the one-on-one sessions, and I thought that probably was worth the added cost for the Judy Wilson program. That it would be worthwhile. So that's what I would support.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, just you. Sorry. So I guess my comments, I would agree. I think Judith Wilson's presentation was impressive in that her one-on-one meeting with board members individually. My concern with NJSBA is they said Friday night and Saturdays is when they would hold these forums, and I just really don't think the attendance is going to be what we want it to be to get a full representation of the concerns in the community and the concerns in the district. So I think just in terms of the timing and the her methods to do these surveys where parents can just do it in the comfort of their home, just quickly fire off whatever it is that they want to contribute, as opposed to going to this in-person forum on a Friday night that we know they're not going to come to. So that was a big thing for me. And the other thing is we've used Judith in the past for many of our board initiatives, and she's fantastic, and we like working with her. And I think she truly understands our district and puts in that time. She's follows us and knows when we pass the referendum, and she just knows things about our district. Not that school boards doesn't, because they're obviously in tune with us also, but there's just more of a personal touch, and she did such a fantastic job last time, so I would for sure go with her again.
I just want to clarify one thing. School boards offers the Friday night and Saturday session. They also offer the 3 consecutive months of evening meetings as well, which is an option for us. So it's not that we're And I don't know if that's more appealing, but I just want to point that out just to make sure that everybody knows that if it's a hang up, it could be something that we resolve. I mean, it sounds like we're all leaning a little bit toward Judy Wilson, but if that was the true hang up, was the Friday and Saturday, that's something we can get around. But evenings can present the same problem, right? 3 consecutive evenings over 3 months, and sort of this revolving door of different stakeholders coming in the meeting, coming in the room could, create the same issue. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we have a little bit of flexibility.
So I was actually leaning towards NJSBA. I'm wondering if they can cater it somehow to us, so maybe we can have some sort of, instead of in person, like Beth just mentioned, maybe do some sort of survey. And Dave, to your point with the goals, I actually think those 2 goals should definitely be part of our plan. I think academics should always be a goal. And I liked their dashboard feature. I thought that was just a nice little add to it. So yeah, I don't know, I was kind of leaning towards them. If we get to the same end result, which if we think we could, then the cost savings can be beneficial.
Interesting. One thing I had since Beth brought up meetings, Judy had mentioned that she wants to do remote, do like Teams or Zoom or Google Meets, right? I had asked her that we need to at least be in person, so she offered to do 1 in person. If we go with Judy, I would see if we can maybe talk to her if she'd do more in person as opposed to just 1. We'll probably have to meet in person anyway, and we'll have a Zoom or Google Meets on the call, but she's there or not. So I thought that was interesting, whereas the school boards actually we're going to have, they're going to be all 3 in person.
I talked with both of them before I brought them to you. I know that we have a lot more of an ability to customize things with Judy Wilson. So if we say we want an additional in-person or however we want to work it with Judy, I think there's some flexibility there. I think that there are some things that she's found more success with virtual because she'll do a kind of combination of both. In talking with school boards, I have to go back, but I hear what Justine is saying, which is how much customization do we have with school boards? And I do think that it's very limited. And if we do customize, I think there's also going to be a cost to it because they had that 2-column chart with like basic costs and then the advanced cost. And it's like the only way to do it is with the advanced cost, which is the 11,000. If we're going to do surveys and customize more, they're going to add more on. That's the conversation that I had with them. I don't think Judy adds things on if she does more in person. And she's at our disposal as well. If you were to call her or I were to call her just for, hey, what would be the next step? It's not like she has an hourly fee or anything. Not the school boards does either, but she would not, based off of my experience with her in the past. So.
Any other comments on this? Thoughts? Okay. So next steps are, this is going to be an action item for us to vote on the January 20th meeting to decide which vendor we want to go with, either school board or Judy Wilson. So think about it, if you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to Dr. Hart, we'll answer them hopefully. And if you don't know, we'll reach out to the 2 vendors and get answers for you. But this will be on the agenda in 2 weeks from now.
Based off of your feedback, it sounds like we're preparing an agenda for Judy Wilson. I mean, I'll hold off a little bit in case something comes up, but
That's a good question. So the agenda item, we could keep it open or decide on the 20th after another discussion. Or we could just say the motion is to approve Judy Wilson, the motion is to approve NJSBA. Or we can have a motion that we don't have filled in, that we fill in at the meeting. So we could just decide that now. Do we need to know now? Or
no, if I knew now, if I knew that we had a consensus, I could at least start unofficial work because there's behind the scenes work that I want to start putting together. So I could do that in the next couple of weeks. I would also I think we should put the name of the person on the agenda too. I think we should just, we're here, there's no new information we're going to get between now and January 20th, right? Like they're not coming back and presenting. You have the 2-column chart. I just want to know, what are we going to wait for?
One of the information I need to know is, can we replace the in-person meetings with surveys?
For
Like
school
that
boards?
Yeah, for school boards, what the additional costs be, what the surveys, additional features.
Okay, I can find that out. I don't,
Because I don't think we would have a good turnout for in-person meetings, and that would help my decision.
for in-person meetings for school boards,
Yeah, I think I just closed it.
but we have to do the in-person meetings, like that we can't scrap that and then just do surveys. We have to add surveys in and then do in-person meetings.
They have the 3 meetings as part of it.
So they have the 3
$3.
meetings,
Right.
and then, oh, I see, and then Judy Wilson does the forums.
So Judy does surveys, forums, individual one-on-one meetings, and then pulls a group of stakeholders together for 2 days. And so her 2 days is like the 3 meetings for school boards, but with the forums and the surveys and the individual one-on-one meetings.
I mean, do you know how many in-person Judy Wilson will do?
Those 2 days are in person, the 2 full days are in person, and at least, she said at least one of her forums is in person. We can ask to do more forums in person. I think that her response would be that it may not result. And she does like a morning and an afternoon, like when we did it last year, I think she came here and she held like a 9 a.m. here in this room and then stayed all day and did her one-to-one meetings and then did the evening all in that same day. But one-on-ones and then she came back and did faculty and staff. I want to say she had individual meetings with every faculty at like a faculty meeting, gathered information somehow from faculty. I think. That was like 6 years ago. She does. She's done surveys of students. She did a meeting, I think, with middle school students last time as well, which could be virtual or in person.
I'll just weigh in because it sounds like you're trying to get a feel. I'm very supportive of working with Judith Wilson. We've worked with her in the past. The cost difference is nominal and we've had great success. So, and she knows the district, so I'd be supportive of that.
And Linda, do you want to weigh in at all?
I'd say Julie Wilson too.
I like the personal touch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm leaning toward Judy as well.
Okay. So I guess we can do Judy on Tuesday.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anything else from unfinished business on the agenda anyone wants to bring up? Okay. Next item is new business from the board. Obviously, we're going to have committee selections. So the agenda, you saw a bylaw 155, it's part of the reread, so you have that. So for the committee selections, I'm going to send an email out after this meeting asking you to provide your input on what committees you want to be on, first choice, second choice, your preference. Realize some of the committees have certain times, which you're familiar with, some are morning, some are afternoon. To reply to my email, obviously I'm going to say don't reply all, but it's part of my standard email response. So I'll have that out there. And then something I want to throw out there just to get your thoughts on, and this could be part of your response to me, is should we create an ad hoc committee for the strategic planning or not? And if there's interest in that. Because the way we're going to do it, obviously we're going to have these meetings. Any board member can attend the meetings as public. If we have 5 of us, we'll open the meeting up like a quorum, so like we do now. We'll turn it over to Judy to do the our facilitation. But do we want to have dedicated board members that are part of the strategic plan? Some districts do it, some don't. So my thought process, if we want, and we could decide on the 20th when we meet on it, is do we want to have an ad hoc committee? And my thought would be one person that's from personnel, one from finance, one from ed tech, one from policy would be on the ad hoc committee, and they would be the liaisons back to each of the other committees if we go that route. So something to consider. For the 20th, we could discuss it. But if you are interested in it, and if it does, let's just say, I want to be on one of the other committees, and I would be interested in being on an ad hoc committee if you form it. So, okay.
Can I add something? I think it's a great idea. When Judy talked and did her presentation, the group that meets, the stakeholder group that meets, it's about 30 people. So I would recommend that however, even if it's ad hoc or if we just get board member volunteers, I would recommend that we select 3 to 4 to be on that core group. Because that is intended to be a mix of stakeholders and not with one group of stakeholders truly overpowering another group. So 9 board members out of 30 is almost a third.
Yeah.
We have parents, staff, teachers, community members that we also want to put on, but if 1/3 of it is just board members, then we have 1/3 of the same voice, if you will. So I think it's a good idea. However you want to do it, it's fine, but just know that that core group is limited to 3 to 4 board members.
Yes, because my thoughts on if you have ownership and someone's part of it, things go better. But if you have like, oh, any board member could show up, I'll show up, I won't show up, I plan on going, but I'm not gonna go. It's open to any public. You can show or not, but if you have 4 people that are dedicated and 1 from each committee, it actually just has the whole committee process flow. So if we want to do it, I know in our policy, the president can create an ad hoc one with no vote. So any complaints if I just go forward? Okay, all right, so based on that, I'll create an ad hoc committee for it. And if you want to be part of it, just put that in your response back. Just do.
So I have a comment on the policy for board committees, because the last time it was edited or updated was 2021. And I think in the past year, if not longer, we made the change that all the board members get the committee agenda prior to the meeting. That's not something that we had done in the past. So I don't know if this policy needs to be updated with that information. And the other
This
thing,
is not the right.
It's not the, it's
oh, it's not?
it's outdated already.
In May of 2025, we updated that policy with our policy suite. So the one that was in the portal is the old policy. Because we
Oh,
put in
yeah.
a 24-hour notice for committee members if they're not able
Yeah,
to, attend.
Yeah, you're right. It's so the, Justine, you want me to send you the link? It's if you just look up the policy and
It's on
send.
the website.
It's on the website. It's the,
Okay.
the updated one's on the website, yeah.
Okay, the other comment I wanted to make was that there was also a suggestion in the past, I don't know how everybody feels about it, is to also add the agenda items, the links. I think it would be beneficial to see the information that is attached to the agenda of the full board. So I don't know what anybody's thoughts are on that, but.
Yeah, and that's something that Dr. Hart and I talked to about a couple months ago, right? When we were doing the board review, self-evaluation. And we reached out to Jennifer, our legal counsel, and she said there was no issue with sharing the preview documents to all board members. Her only concern was about process and how the board handles it. For example, if we go out there, and I'm not part of the policy committee, but the policy, Jason posts out the policy committee documents to all board members to review beforehand. There's nothing wrong with that from an OPMA, Oprah, anything along those regards. Her concern was email chains. When you see that, like all of a sudden you see something in a policy committee, you do a reply all to all board members about that. So her concern was if you're going to do that, you have to follow the OPMA rules and just send an email to the board chair and to the president and Dr. Hart. So if we were to do that, Jason will post all the material out there like he does for all the meetings prior to the committee. You would have access to it, but you have to be cognizant of OPMA and just your replies if you were to do that. I know Dr. Hart, you have some thoughts on this as well. On that.
Yeah, I'm a process person. And I would just ask the question, what's the issue we're trying to resolve by sharing more information and giving all board members access to the full documents rather than allowing the chairs and the committees to do the work that they have to do in committee and then bring it to the full board when necessary. That would just be my thought. You know, you have a lot to review anyway. Do you want every committee agenda with all the committee handouts and links to review, or do you want to review when it's in front of you as board action, when the time comes? Which is the process kind of
Could
thing.
there be like a shared folder for each committee where the documents are in there? And if because I've run into where sometimes the minutes come last minute before a meeting, so then it's trying to catch up, and then if there's a question, and then it would just be, sometimes my free time isn't, it's 11 p.m., 1 a.m., so, it's not easy to
Yeah.
ask questions at that time.
Yeah.
So,
for convenience and for ease of access to, information, I just feel like a fully informed board is a good board.
And it also goes down to the agenda. So you have the agenda item that says committee's going to discuss X. But without the background document, you really don't know what the discussion is. So you don't know if you want to pose a question to the committee chair ahead of time about X. And for the last, 4 or 5 months, I've been getting all as board president the folder before each committee, so I get to do it. So I've actually asked questions ahead of time. So it's actually been very beneficial to me to see the material, not just the agenda, to be honest with you. And if I have access to it, and there's no legal issue why anyone else can't have access to it, do we open this up to the rest of the board just from a transparency perspective?
I've been the chair of the finance committee for 2 years. I've never once received a question from anyone prior to a meeting, and I can count on one hand the number of questions I've received after. So I'd be curious to know which committees are getting questions, because finance isn't. And I wish we did, because I love finance.
Maybe you will if documents are made available besides just an agenda. It will spur questions.
I have asked questions, but I usually can't address them to Jason. Because it's about the bill list and things like that I think he would have answers to.
But you're on that committee though. I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, somebody else just.
Yeah, just from the committee chairs, are you getting questions? I'm not clear what problem we're solving. I don't oppose it. I'm just not sure it's necessary.
I could offer examples, so, sometimes as like test score thing, something comes from central to us, right? And so as the committee chair, I'm looking at the documents beforehand, and if somebody else is looking at them, I don't have the information yet until we have the meeting, and then I can answer the question. So to me, I don't really see, like, you could ask me the same thing, and I'll ask at the meeting, which is what I do, and then I go back to that person and I say, okay, this is what I found out. Or I just include in the minutes whatever their questions were, what the response is. So, I do get questions on the documents beforehand, but on the other hand, I'm thinking of like policy, we have policy tracking document, and if that's available to everyone, it's a working document that 4 of us are inputting information in, and I just can't imagine 9 people looking at this, and like, to me, I'm just like, it just makes me cringe a little bit, because I'm like, but I want to just enter the data in my section, and I don't know, I feel like it's a lot of hands in on the same document, and it's in draft form. We're discussing it as we go, and then we get to the meeting, and the minutes come out, and the minutes are the summary of what we discussed in that meeting. So to me, I don't feel like I need more information. I feel like I get enough information from the minutes, and then if I have questions afterwards from the minutes, I look at the agenda. If there's something bothering me that I need to really ask about, I will, but otherwise I just wait for the minutes to come out and just so I understand before I do a vote.
I just found a message ahead of my drafts that I never sent to you, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
send it!
So you can see, it is dated right now, but I wrote it before the last meeting, because I had some comments about the transportation topic that I wanted to share with you. And I know Ed Tech, I do send messages to Beth a lot, because I'm really curious about seeing that data, and I'm impatient, and I just want to get in there, and I want to look through it myself. So I just, in the same sense as Justina, I have this curiosity, and I might not go through all of the attachments every time, but I do like the idea of what you said, that, Ellen, about the folder that's for every committee that we can just go into, because we do have to wait until you send out an email and we can find the link and then go through it. But
And that's probably what I would do. I would just say that when Jason and I send out the agenda folder, right? So my email is always like, our next committee meeting is such and such a date. Here's the link. Here's the attachment with the folder that has all the documents in it. Instead of sending it to the committee, I'll just send it to the full board. Like, that sounds like that would be, and then you can create a folder, and you can just put all ed tech in one folder and all finance in another folder.
And that's kind of what happened. I was just added as a CC to that. That's how we got it. So no new process was created. My name was just added to all those emails that I'm able to do. So rather than just adding me, we would add 4 other people depending on the other committee.
Angela, there's been situations where a person had some things they want to mention during the committee meeting, an idea or shared or whatever, and we've made sure we've shared it out and the chair goes through and makes sure those points are addressed, and it works out nicely. I feel that like that wouldn't, hinder the committee meetings or anything, so. If, as long as they're sent to the chair, within a timely manner, respectful manner before the meeting, that would be okay.
Did you get to Justina's original question? I don't think the policy needs to be updated for this. This is just process, correct?
I really don't want to update any more policies. I really don't want to go in and start tailoring,
All right, so we're not gonna-
I think,
all right, so but we'll just
let's
make
keep
that
it-
the process.
yeah, we gotta get through the 2000s. We're still there.
Still, close.
We're getting there.
Okay, any other items from any new business from the board? Okay. Next item is our second public forum. Any items on or off the agenda? Anyone online? Okay, close that out. Now have the adjournment. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting? Seconded. Roll call, please.
Ms. Gaskin.
Yes.
Ms. DeVinto.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore.
Yes.
Mrs. Mentor.
Yes.
Mr. Keros. Yes. Mrs. Ryan.
Yes.
Mr. Rizzo. Yes. Mrs. Ryan.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming. It's nice to meet you.
Passionate about the ethics stuff. It's
You?
so much of my
Yeah,
day.
just a reminder, if you haven't taken your sign form.
You could be, but
I would say it's.
They sat next
it's
to
at
me.
least 50%, if not
Thank you
75%
very much.
of what I do between answering you complaints that come in weekly.
Yeah.
No matter what, I'm taking it.
Dragging on.
Yeah.